high pressure dominates the UK. Dry, calm, and mild weather ahead. UK weather forecast update. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the weather news on Mr. Tien channel. As we move further into mid-October, one dominant feature continues to control the weather pattern across the UK. High pressure. It's comfortably positioned over the British Isles and looks set to remain steady well into next week. That means, for most of us, a stretch of quiet, stable, and dry weather lies ahead, a peaceful pause in what is usually a rather unsettled season. But as we'll see, there are subtle changes brewing that could make the end of October feel quite different. So let's take a closer look, starting with the live radar and current observations this Thursday evening. If we check the latest UKV radar, there's really not much going on tonight. Around 8:30 p.m., some light drizzle is appearing over northern Scotland, particularly near the North Sea coasts. But otherwise, much of England, Wales, and Northern Ireland remain dry, with scattered clouds and the occasional clear break. It's a typical autumn evening, cool, calm, and just a light breeze in open areas. Temperatures are gradually dipping into single digits, generally between 8 degrees Celsius and 12 degrees, although some sheltered inland spots could drop a bit lower overnight. Despite the chill, the air mass above us remains mild for the time of year. In fact, many areas are still slightly above average for mid-October. That's the influence of the persistent high-pressure system acting as a shield, blocking Atlantic airflows and rain-bearing fronts. Moving into Saturday, the pattern stays much the same. The high remains anchored to the west and slowly drifts eastward, keeping most of the UK under its influence. The morning will start with patchy fog and low cloud, especially across eastern England and the Midlands, but those should gradually lift to give bright or sunny spells later in the day. Further north, Scotland may stay cloudier, particularly along coasts and high ground where onshore breezes from the North Sea can bring the odd patch of drizzle. However, even here, rainfall amounts will be minimal. By afternoon, most of us will enjoy a dry day with a mix of cloud and sunshine. Temperatures will rise to around 16 to 18 degrees Celsius, pleasantly mild for the time of year. Winds could make it feel a touch cooler, especially along coasts and exposed hills. As the sun sets, skies will clear more in the south, allowing temperatures to drop quickly, a classic sign of the season. Lows will fall between 6 and 10 degrees Celsius, cooler in rural areas. The trend continues into Sunday. It could start on the chilly side, with some locations dipping into single figures again. There's still no frost risk yet. Ground temperatures aren't quite low enough, but you'll definitely feel the crispness of autumn. Saturday looks to bring another dry, calm day with sunny breaks and scattered cloud. Some thicker cloud may drift inland from the east later on, again due to North Sea influence, but nothing significant. Highs around 15 to 17 degrees Celsius, possibly 18 degrees Celsius in sunnier parts of southern England and Wales. By Sunday, a slightly cooler air mass begins to move in from the north and northeast. Daytime highs will slip by a degree or two, and nights will be chillier, 3 to 5 degrees Celsius in rural areas, around 8 degrees Celsius in towns and cities. Still, overall it's a quiet day with little to no rain across the UK. Heading into Monday and Tuesday, the big picture remains largely under high pressure, but we'll start to notice a bit more cloud, especially in northern and eastern regions. Cool, moist air from the North Sea will sometimes bring grey skies and a few light drizzles, particularly along the coasts of Yorkshire, Lincolnshire, and eastern Scotland. Yet again, rainfall totals will be tiny. Many places may record 0 millimeters of measurable rain. Afternoon highs will sit comfortably between 15 to 17 degrees Celsius, with overnight lows 6 to 10 degrees. In short, perfect mid-autumn weather. Mild, dry, breezy at times, pleasant by day, and cool by night. Now let's zoom out to the wider atmospheric setup behind all this. For much of this month, the UK has been under a blocked weather pattern. That's when high pressure becomes semi-stationary and stops other systems from moving freely across the North Atlantic. In this case, our blocking high has been anchored near Western Europe and the North Atlantic, occasionally nudging north toward Greenland. This matters because it shifts the jet stream, pushing it northward and cutting off the usual supply of Atlantic lows. So instead of the frequent rain and storms we normally see in autumn, we've had dry, settled conditions. In fact, some areas of England and Wales have seen barely any measurable rain in 2 weeks. a rare situation for October. Looking further ahead, beyond the UKV range, things get a bit less certain. Some longer-range GFS and ECMWF runs suggest the high might drift northwest toward Greenland, while weaker Atlantic lows start edging in from the southwest. If that happens, we could begin to see a change in the air mass, cooler, more unsettled weather from the north or northeast. However, model signals remain inconsistent. Some keep the high firmly over the UK, maintaining the dry pattern, while others allow Atlantic moisture to creep in, bringing more clouds and patchy rain by the third week of the month. Right now, there's no clear consensus, just growing hints that the current stability won't last forever. If we check the 2-meter temperature charts, the next few days stay relatively mild. Most areas will hover around or slightly above seasonal norms, nothing particularly cold yet. But toward the end of next week and the following weekend, models hint at a slight temperature dip. Daytime highs may fall into the low to mid-teens, with nighttime lows occasionally dropping to 3 to 4 degrees Celsius across northern and rural regions. Again, not freezing, but definitely a cooler feel, especially under clear skies. Still, no widespread frost or early winter weather signs yet. We're not there. Now, turning to rainfall accumulation, the 10 to 15-day GFS and ECMWF charts show an impressively dry picture. Much of the UK, particularly southern England, the Midlands, and Wales, could see near zero rainfall for the next 2 weeks. Northern Scotland may pick up a few light showers, but even there totals stay well below normal. That's remarkable for October, a month typically dominated by active Atlantic systems. It's rare to see such prolonged dryness into mid-autumn, especially as we approach the wettest part of the year. This lack of rain could become a talking point in coming weeks for agriculture, water management, and soil conditions, which are starting to dry out in many areas. Although our weather remains calm, the North Atlantic itself isn't entirely quiet. Several fronts are trying to form to the west, but each time they move east, the blocking high deflects or weakens them, like a traffic jam in the atmosphere, systems stacking up over the ocean waiting for a break. If and when that ridge weakens, possibly later in the month, we could see a more active pattern return, with low-pressure systems once again heading toward the British Isles. But for now, high pressure stays in control. Winds will be light to moderate, mainly from the north or northeast, meaning onshore flow along eastern coasts with occasional cloud, while western regions stay brighter and drier. Nothing severe here. Gusts rarely exceed 20 to 25 miles per hour, and in sheltered southern areas, winds may be near calm. This gentle breeze contributes to the fresh but comfortable feel. It's that crisp, pleasant kind of weather that reminds us autumn is truly here. Looking further into late October, ensemble models start hinting at slight variability. A few colder members bring northerly or northeasterly winds, suggesting cooler air and possibly the first frosts across northern England. Others keep things milder and more Atlantic-driven. This model disagreement is typical for the time of year. We're transitioning between early autumn warmth and the first real chills of early winter. What we can say with confidence, this spell of dominant high pressure won't last forever. By the final third of October, we could see a gradual shift toward a more unsettled regime. More cloud, more wind, and yes, eventually, more rain. Summary for the next 7 to 10 days. High pressure remains in control. Mostly dry, calm weather with sunny and cloudy spells. Some light drizzle possible in the east and north, but very minor. Temperatures 15 to 18 degrees daytime, 5 to 10 degrees nighttime. Winds light northeast, breezy along coasts. Rainfall extremely low, many areas completely dry. Outlook slightly cooler next week, with hints of change after mid-month. So enjoy this quiet spell while it lasts. It's rare to have such tranquil mid-autumn weather for so long. But don't get too comfortable. The atmosphere always finds a way to balance itself out. By late October, we may be back to showers, Atlantic winds, and the first touches of wintry chill. For now, though, it's a pleasant setup. Clear skies, light winds, and no rain. Evenings are growing longer, the air feels fresher, and the golden colors of autumn are taking over. It's the perfect time to step outside, soak up the sunshine, and get ready for the wetter, colder weeks ahead. The extended forecast for the UK remains mild, gentle, and remarkably dry, with high pressure staying the key player for at least another week. Thanks for tuning in and following our latest updates. Don't forget to like and subscribe for daily and weekly forecasts. And as always, we'll keep watching every subtle shift in this evolving autumn pattern. Until next time, stay safe, stay dry, and enjoy the peaceful skies while they last.
High pressure dominates the UK. Dry, calm and mild weather ahead. UK forecast update. Good everyone, and welcome back to the news on Mr. Tien channel. As we move deeper into mid-October, the pattern across the United Kingdom remains dominated by one key player, high pressure. It's been sitting comfortably over the British Isles, and it looks set to hold firm well into next week. That means for many of us, another stretch of calm, settled, and largely dry weather lies ahead, a quiet spell in what's typically a much more unsettled season. But as we'll see, there are subtle shifts brewing beyond the horizon, and they could make late October feel quite different. So, let's take a closer look, starting with the live radar and current observations this Thursday evening. If we look at the latest UKV radar, there's really not much in the way of activity tonight. Around 8:30 p.m., light drizzle is appearing across parts of northern Scotland, especially near coastal areas exposed to the North Sea. But apart from that, much of England, Wales, and Northern Ireland are dry, with broken cloud cover and a few clear intervals. It's one of those classic autumn evenings, cool, calm, and slightly breezy in the open areas. Temperatures are sliding down through the low double digits, generally ranging from 8 to 12 degrees Celsius, though a few sheltered inland spots may dip a little lower later tonight. Despite that chill in the breeze, the air mass above us remains mild for the season. In fact, many areas are still seeing temperatures slightly above average for mid-October. That's the influence of our persistent high-pressure system, which acts like a shield, keeping rain-bearing Atlantic fronts at bay. As we head into Saturday, the weather story stays remarkably similar. The high pressure remains anchored to our west and gradually drifts eastward, keeping most of the UK under its influence. The morning will start with some mist and low cloud patches, particularly across eastern England and the Midlands, but these will gradually lift and break into bright spells as the day wears on. Further north, Scotland could see more in the way of cloud, especially in coastal and upland regions where the air flows directly from the North Sea, bringing occasional light drizzle. However, even here, rainfall amounts will be minimal, just a trace at best. By the afternoon, many of us will enjoy a dry day with a mix of cloud and sunshine. Temperatures will climb into the mid to upper teens, around 16 to 18 degrees Celsius, which is quite comfortable for this stage of autumn. The breeze, however, could make it feel a touch cooler, especially along the coasts and higher ground. As the sun sets, skies will clear further across the south, allowing temperatures to fall quickly after dark, a clear sign of the season. Expect lows between 6 and 10 degrees Celsius, perhaps cooler in the countryside. Heading into the weekend, the overall pattern stays settled. Sunday morning could start off rather chilly, with some locations dropping into single digits once again. There's still no frost risk at this point. The ground temperatures aren't low enough, but you'll definitely notice that crisp autumn feel. Saturday will be another mostly dry and calm day, with a mix of sunshine and patchy cloud. Some thicker cloud could push inland from the east later in the day, again linked to the North Sea influence. But it won't amount to much. Temperatures will reach 15 to 17 degrees Celsius, perhaps 18 degrees Celsius in sunnier spots across southern England and parts of Wales. By Sunday, a slightly cooler air mass begins to drift in from the north and northeast. Daytime highs will edge down by a degree or two, and the nights will feel colder, 3 to 5 degrees Celsius in rural areas. Around 8 degrees Celsius in towns and cities. Still, it's another quiet, tranquil day overall, with no significant rain anywhere across the UK. As we move into Monday and Tuesday, the picture remains dominated by high pressure, but we'll begin to see a little more cloud cover developing, especially across eastern and northern parts of the country. Cooler, Moist air from the North Sea will bring gray skies at times and perhaps a few spots of drizzle, particularly in coastal regions of Yorkshire, Lincolnshire, and eastern Scotland. But once again, rainfall totals will be tiny, many locations seeing 0 millimeters of measurable rain. Afternoon temperatures will stay fairly mild, hovering around 15 to 17 degrees Celsius, with overnight lows between 6 and 10 degrees Celsius. In short, a perfectly typical mid-autumn pattern. Calm, dry, slightly breezy, and comfortable by day, with cooler, longer nights. Now, let's step back for a moment and look at the broader atmospheric setup behind this weather. For much of this month, the UK has been under a blocked weather pattern. That's when high pressure becomes semi-stationary and prevents other systems from moving freely across the North Atlantic. In this case, our blocking high has been anchored near Western Europe and the North Atlantic, occasionally nudging north toward Greenland. That's significant because it alters the jet stream, pushing it further north and effectively cutting off our usual supply of low-pressure systems. So instead of the traditional autumn parade of storms and fronts sweeping in from the Atlantic, we've been treated to dry, stable conditions. In fact, some regions in England and Wales have seen almost no measurable rain for the past 2 weeks, quite an unusual situation for October. As we move beyond the UKV model range, looking further into next week and beyond, things become a little more uncertain. Some of the longer-range GFS and ECMWF runs are suggesting that high pressure could start to shift northwestwards toward Greenland, while weaker Atlantic lows begin to press in from the southwest. If that happens, we could start to see a change in the air mass, introducing cooler, more unstable air from the north or northeast. However, these signals are still far from consistent between models. Some ensemble runs keep the high firmly over the UK, maintaining the dry spell, while others allow Atlantic moisture to break through, bringing more cloud and patchy rain by the third week of the month. At this point, there's no clear consensus, just a growing indication that the current stability won't last forever. If we look at the 2-meter temperature charts, the coming days remain relatively mild. Most regions will hover around or slightly above the seasonal norm, so nothing particularly cold yet. However, as we approach the end of next week and the following weekend, model projections hint at a slight drop in temperatures. Daytime highs may fall into the low to mid-teens, with nighttime lows occasionally dipping to 3 or 4 degrees Celsius in northern and rural parts. Again, not extreme cold, but you'll notice a cooler edge, particularly under clear skies. That said, there's still no sign of widespread frost or wintry weather at this stage. We're not quite there yet. Now, let's turn our attention to rainfall accumulations. When we look at the 10 to 15-day totals from the latest GFS and ECMWF runs, the maps are strikingly dry. Large parts of the UK, especially southern England, the Midlands, and Wales, could see virtually 0 millimeters of rain for the next 2 weeks. Northern Scotland might collect a few light showers, but even there, amounts are well below normal. For October, a month that usually brings frequent Atlantic systems, this is quite remarkable. It's rare to see such dry conditions sustained this long into the autumn, particularly when we're moving toward what's normally the wettest part of the year. This lack of rain will likely become a talking point in the coming weeks, especially for agriculture and water management, since soil moisture levels are beginning to drop noticeably in many regions. While our weather remains calm, the North Atlantic itself isn't completely quiet. There are several frontal systems trying to develop to the west, but every time they push eastward, the blocking high deflects them north or forces them to weaken. Think of it like a traffic jam in the atmosphere, systems piling up over the ocean, waiting for a break in the ridge. If and when that ridge weakens, possibly late in the month, we could see a more active pattern resuming, with low-pressure systems once again tracking toward the British Isles. For now, though, the high pressure remains dominant, so we're safe from storms for at least another week. Under this setup, winds will generally be light to moderate, coming mainly from the north or northeast. That means onshore breezes for eastern coasts, bringing in moisture and cloud at times, while western areas remain brighter and drier. Nothing severe here. Gusts will rarely exceed 20 to 25 miles per hour. And in sheltered southern areas, winds will be almost calm at times. This gentle airflow contributes to that slightly cool but comfortable feel we've been experiencing. It's the kind of weather that's easy to live with, just crisp enough to remind us it's autumn. Looking further ahead into late October, ensemble models start to hint at slightly more variability. There are a few colder members showing north or northeasterly flows, which could bring chillier conditions and perhaps even the first frost of the season across northern Britain. Other runs, however, keep things mild, maintaining the Atlantic influence. This kind of model disagreement is very typical for this time of year, as we transition between the stable warmth of early autumn and the dynamic chill of early winter. What we can say with confidence is that the dominance of high pressure is unlikely to last forever. By the final third of October, we're likely to see a gradual shift toward a more unsettled regime, more cloud, more wind, and yes, eventually, more rain. To sum up the next 7 to 10 days, high pressure remains firmly in control. Expect mainly dry, calm weather with a mix of sunshine and cloud. Light drizzle possible in the east and north, but nothing significant. Temperatures, around 15 to 18 degrees Celsius by day, 5 to 10 degrees Celsius by night. Winds, gentle northeasterly, occasionally breezy near coasts. Rainfall, exceptionally low, many areas staying completely dry. Medium range outlook, a subtle cooling trend next week, with signs of a pattern shift beyond mid-month. So enjoy this quiet spell while it lasts. It's rare for mid-autumn to feel this settled for so long. But don't get too comfortable. The atmosphere always finds a way to balance itself. By late October, we could be back to blustery showers, Atlantic fronts, and the first hints of winter chill. For now, though, it's steady as she goes. High pressure keeps our skies mostly clear, the winds light and the rain at bay. The evenings are lengthening, the air feels fresher, and the golden tones of autumn are taking hold. It's a good time to get outside, enjoy the sunshine, and prepare for the colder, wetter weeks that inevitably lie ahead. So that's your extended forecast for the UK. Calm, mild, and remarkably dry, with high pressure remaining the star of the show for at least another week. Thanks for watching and staying up to date with the latest analysis. Don't forget to like and subscribe for daily and weekly forecasts, and as always, we'll keep tracking every small shift in this evolving autumn pattern. Until next time, stay safe, stay dry, and enjoy the calm skies while they last.